Let's see what happens when we go into inline mode and pick up a gun. So let's start with one at the origin. A gun near the origin, and we click on it. So now we're holding this gun. What is the perceived location of that gun to somebody who now enters the room? So you see, it hasn't moved because picking up didn't change. Grabbing a gun did not change its location. So when it downloads everything about it, it isn't actually holding it. So if we move forward here to where the other person can see us, it's not holding the gun. So that's one issue. The other issue is now if we release it, so let's release it, click once. Now it's released in that spot, and it is moved into that spot. Okay. So if we reload this, now it gets the update. Okay, so the issue here is that if someone grabs a gun and is holding it, but then someone joins, they will not receive the grab event. So don't have updated info about who is holding what. That's one issue. Second issue is that on release, it permanently changes the future position of the gun. So if we want to restart this level or something, it's just permanently there. And suppose we want to say that, oh, it should be near the origin. So we want to have this concept of temporary location. And we had discussed this in the past, how we were going to create this. I'm looking through my notes here. And we can create an edit toggle mode. When in edit mode, your events don't include the session. Snapshot of events without session, go into entity and components. Components have type, state, then data, event. Go into components as well. Okay, I think where I had left off is the serialization or the storage of everything in the scene ends up as um, this snapshot will build entities, and entities have components, including rotation, position, etc. And so if you just modify this, there's only one place to put it. But we could have the components. Right now it's made up of an ID, which we don't use, a type, and it belongs to an entity ID. And these two form the unique key. But we could also have another one for state or maybe session, which has the value of maybe base or the name of the session, like session perhaps, and that would almost allow for different named keyframes, because now you could have a unique key that's made up of the type, the entity ID, and whatever this column is called, so that you could have a position for the base model and a position for the session. And then when you want to reset the game, you just delete all of those records that have session in the column. This would also allow you to save multiple values for different modes. For example, keyframe 1 or keyframe 2 or state 1 and state 2, so that you could potentially move something around based on the state you want to invoke. So why don't we put a pin in that, and we can come back and fix some of these issues. So to reach step 1, I think we need to extend merchant state to include left holding and right holding, which can contain the entity ID, if any, of the thing that they're holding. That way, when you load the initial state from the about uh, sorry, not merchants, members, about members, then the then when you join, you can assign, you can parent the entity to the member's hand. Okay, so that's the first thing. Secondly, on release, okay, we'll add a state column to components. And then when we get the transform entity transformed, then we'll set the state to be equal to base. And when we get the entity released, we'll save new component for position rotation, but we'll set it for the state equals the session. And then we have to add something that when gen server terminated, then we will remove, delete all components with state session. All right, that's the plan. All right, so where is member state set? Member state. So we have a type. Okay, so I'm going to say left, which can be a string or null, and right. Okay. And are these optional? Let's make these both optional. So you create your own health first, which I guess can be this. Okay. And when we get the about members, we'll merge their state into ours. Signal hub, member state changed. Okay, my state, it gets my member state. Members, okay. Space broker, these are all commented out. I guess we can remove this by now. Old comment. Member entered. Let's see what generates member entered. Let's see here. Get this. My state, okay. That should give you a left and right of null. So if everybody has that, then the state should contain that. Okay, handle cast. Number emperor is going to have an event. Handle event here. Member entered. Handle event. Goes over here. Handle event will go to CVM stream, broadcast event. And where are we updating the state? I think, oh, that happens in SpaceChannel, isn't it? About members, member states to map. States to map, we're going to reduce them into the payload. SpaceChannel. After join. It's about members. And what about when we, here's terminate, get state, merge state. Member ID and the map. All we need to do is we need to listen when we are grabbing something to update that map. So let's see, we're handling a bunch of stuff in SpaceChannel. Handle an event, yes. And we'll do process event and we'll do cache members. Cache members ends up handling member damaged. Okay, it handles member respond. It handles member entered. It handles when I move. I should probably move this up so that this is the most frequently used cache member. The rest are here and there. And let's see, cache members and... Alright, so we want to handle the kind when you're grabbing something, which would be... Let's look at the types. Member grabbed, entity grabbed and entity released. These are the two that interest me. So going into SpaceChannel. Sorry, a little comment here. So do cache members. When it's entity grabbed, and you're gonna have some payload here, which is member ID, entity ID, hand, and hand. I don't think we need that. We need the hand, entity ID, member ID, yeah. Entity password, okay, that's fine. And then we're gonna have the socket do, and we're gonna update the we're gonna merge state. We're gonna merge state, give this as the new state. Merge state takes the member ID, it takes the new map and the socket. And so this will be the hand, and so entity grab. I need to reference a key that is a variable. Can I do that? Map put enum reduce map put into this accumulator with this key. Okay. Key is this value. You can just do key. And pin the key. Another. I can do hand. Hold on, it was a, this is a symbol, and then you get a symbol to whatever. That's interesting. So A equals a map with, okay, let's say, my key is key, and then I have this map, which is key to that. Okay. Okay. So I go hand, and it is the entity ID. That's what that does. Entity grabbed. And then if you get entity released, and it's the member ID, entity ID in the hand again, and then you will just say that that hand is no. Entity ID is unused, so don't care. Okay. So let's see if this works. Alright, so I'm going to go over here, I'm going to grab that, and I want to get access to this space, so I'm going to do space ID is equal to this ID, and space server summary, and here's the reference for member states. Is there something like that? Like member states. Okay, we've got a health on the left, and the right is something. Oh, this needs to be symbolized. Key. And okay, so Adam 2 string to atom. Okay, can I do string to atom? Let's just do this. Hand equals string to atom. Hand. Do that. Alright, so we'll quit, restart the server. And jump into this space here. And space ID is this, and if I say member states right now, right and left are both nil. If I grab that, right has it, and if I just release it, it's empty again. If I grab it again, now I'm going to open up Firefox. So we'll enter this space, and we'll receive a message about all the other places. So if I, let's see, oh, here's member states. Okay, we didn't get information about left and right. So it doesn't look like it came down RB1 AWA. Still holding on to it. Let's see, about. Member states. Okay, member states changed. Setting my state. So when do we call member states changed? Member states changed. Okay, this is emitted whenever we merge state in there. Alright. Okay, about agents gets this. Let's just see what this is. Also about log about agents, and let's just do JSON stringify the payload. Let's see everything we're getting. So we'll join first. We'll grab that gun and we'll clear this and see what we get here. And one more time here. Did we miss it already? Let's see. About members. Enter their states from about. Oh, this is about agents. I put it in the wrong place. This is agent manager. Wrong place. Member states is, let's see, we'll get about members. Here we go, about members. Scan. I have that, and then I'm going to come over here, clear this, enter, and about members. Here we go. Movements, states, left, right. Okay, yeah, I have everything there. Member states that changed. Didn't get anything. Didn't get this whole picture here. So about members. Should have done this merge state thing. Merge state. If this members, if it doesn't exist, just add it there. Copy in only the keys that are part of the state. Object, console key, object keys, and attribute. Now you have all this data, and you're saying what const key of object keys, and oh, if the key is in this member ID. Why do that? I think all these keys are fine. For any of these keys, go ahead and put it in there. The key, this, and then the key, and put it in there. That'll be fine. And the member state changes, becomes this member. So now we're going to have it. Do this, and we peek inside, member state changed. Yeah, we got more stuff in here now. Right, left. Okay, so now with that, when you're building your avatars, you need to look inside member states. Now, when is member state created? It's really created kind of far off on its own. And so we could refactor this so that we could get it anywhere if we just remove this constructor so it doesn't need to take anything. We could just initialize ourselves. Alright, so when is member states created? Member states is created in the orchestrator. But what if we just instantiated member states? It's got this, and we'll remove this to begin with. So no member ID, and this is undetermined as of yet. Anything else? Alright. And then what I want to do is, oops. is I want to instantiate this. So, okay, I'm going to export this class, but I also instantiate this class. So I'm just going to say export member const, or sure, const member states equal new member states. And we need something to initialize the member ID, which you could just say my member ID. So we're listening for this, we're listening on that, we're combining latest, do enter, and then this members. So we won't have this. So we'll say initialize self and give us a member ID, which is a string, And we'll say yes, my member ID is this member ID, and we'll also do that. And so in Orchestrator, we won't need member states to be a member of us. We'll just import member states, and we'll say member states initialize self with the member ID. Now we can, this is following all the signals to populate everything about everyone. You can use this anywhere now. And we just have to import it and we can use it. So you can peek at it to look at everyone. We're also broadcasting a change. Let's see, we could also listen to when we get about members, but that would be a race condition because we need to. There's the member states, and then the members are updated. What did we do? What we did is, first of all, does this still work? Yeah. It seems fine. Okay. Yeah, we need to draw it so that this has the gun. So how are we doing that now? We get about members here. We merge state. This we'll then call member states changed. We mix that locally. So we would get one for every member there. But in scene manager, what are we listening for to find or create avatar? Find or create avatar, or how are we creating these? Member entry. We're doing this, create avatar. Okay. Member moved. So, in fact, we're not creating them at all when we see member entered. I'm sorry, when we see about members. This isn't one of the events that we're listening to create any of them. And so if they don't move, we're not creating any of them. So one thing we could do is that in the we could listen. Oh, no, I take that back. We are listening about members for every one. We went and created this thing based on its presence. So you got to pose. You see, I see. The about members was member ID and payload. It's an array. What is it? About members. So you get movements and Can I format that a little bit better? Let's see. Member states. Let's do stringify members. No, 2. So format it a little bit better. Okay, here we go. So we get it's an object with a movements key. Pause rot. So we're not getting any hand position yet, which is fine. I mean, it may or may not be there depending on what's in the state. It could be there. And the state, okay. So then here we create the entry member states. So we're grabbing member states and then building this. Member movements. Okay, so this is what member states is doing. What scene manager is doing member movements. So potentially left and right is there. Create avatar. Member movements, you've got the payload left and payload right, which could be undefined. Payload pause rot. What happens if you get this guy that is in XR mode and then he's just moving around a little bit? Okay, so that's now in the gen server memory. So when we join again, this is what we'll be getting. Movements, pause rot, still no left or right. No left or right data, that is. I suppose that's fine. Then you get states, and then you could assign them a left and right. Create avatar. Okay, so you could loop through them, checking to see if they have left or right, and if there are, then you would emulate that payload just for yourself, maybe. So we don't have the position and rotation of any of that. I think you could just parent it. Yeah, if you're holding it, you actually need a little bit more information, right? You don't know how you're holding it. You know, but whatever it is, it's a step up over what it is now, which is we don't have any information at all about how you're holding it. So for const, you're going to get member ID and payload of object entries in members states. So this will give you member state. going through any object if payload left, and do something if payload right, and do something, and that payload is this, right? So first we'll need to find an entity that has this. So this scene, find or get mesh IID with the payload left, and this will be a mesh. And if mesh exists, then find the left hand of that avatar. So then this will be avatar, find avatar hand, given this member ID and the hand, which would be left, and the scene and const hand would be this. And if you have the hand, then mesh.parent equal hand, and it will just should pop into place right there. And then you'll just do something similar with the right. So there's something on the right, and you'll do the right, and this will be the right, and pop that into the parent. So there's some improvement to be made here, but let's see what we get. So we're going to grab that here, and then we're just going to load up this space, and yeah, it is parented in some way. So it's not totally detached, but it's not in the hand, and I think that might be because, let's see, well, it it's probably because the mesh has some transformation on it. So we need to unset pause rot of the mesh. In order to make this happen. Okay, that looks pretty good now. And that is actually pretty good. Okay, so we made some progress on that. We'll probably optimize this into some kind of function that just generic place things in things hands. So to do create utility for placing a shootable in any avatar's hand. Probably need more member state info for a held entity to know its position and rotation if not a shooter. Okay, so we did the first part, that if somebody joins, they couldn't see where somebody was holding something. Now they can. And in the next video, we should track gun position movements a little bit different than entity transformations, because those are transient. So we'll handle that next time.